Dada, go, Dada, go, Dada.
Oh, God.
It's up in the air.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Testnot channel. Thanks so much for being here again. With me today is my friend David Williams. I met David a few times at the Highland Games in New England over the last year and a half, I think. I've seen his face here and there. We shook hands a few times. David has begun a quest to have a Highland Games in Stonington, Connecticut. He's with the U.S. Navy. He's an instructor down at the Groton Submarine School. And he's become a Highland athlete since 2023, and he's quite involved in it now. And I'm helping him spread the word about the Whaling Coast Highland Games at Stonington, July the 26th. Thanks for being here, David. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. I think we just saw each other at the No Fame Spring thing there, getting warmed up for the year.
Yeah, breaking off some of the rust a little bit.
Right. And I'm sure that was a good way for you to meet some people, let them know about your event coming up.
Oh, yeah, it was. And we got to meet a lot of newer athletes.
Right.
And I like the idea. I think it was a good way to garner some more interest.
Yeah, right. And I love how you're tying it in with the what I call the colonial and the whaling period in New England. Very
Yeah,
nice.
I wanted to bring the area history into the games as well because
Right.
the whole idea behind the Highland Games and the community that everybody's trying to build in New England is about tradition and history. And I felt that
Hmm.
if we could bring the area's history into it as well, then it would kind of help mesh everything together a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, it gets people's eye right to them, or their brain right to a map. They're thinking ocean, they're thinking the seacoast, just from the title of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is great. I see you're cooperating with the local Grange group to get some of it done. Um, and also, is it the proceeds from this are going to go to a veterans mental health charity?
Yeah, that's right. So the Goats Charity Athletic Club um, has helped us, is really hosting the event.
Okay.
Um, they're taking charge of pretty much the financials and a little bit more of the logistics.
Yeah.
Um, but they're a charity that was founded to help veterans, and they're specifically targeting like mental health benefits. Um, they've helped other charities that train emotional support dogs for
Oh,
veterans,
excellent.
um, that like alert people whenever a veteran's having like a PTSD attack or anything else like that. So
Hmm.
they do a lot of good work in the veteran community, and we wanted to, since there's such a large military presence here,
Hmm.
we really wanted to bring that into the fold as well.
Right. Yeah, it's nice that you have some people on your team, you know. You don't want to be an island in the stream in this thing. You need some help to get this done. Otherwise, I've seen some hopeful things rise their head above in Connecticut actually too, and then not happen. But this is certainly going to go ahead. You have some athletic equipment already being lent to you,
Hmm.
and an athletic director to help you out, right? I haven't met Randall, but Randall Atkinson, is it?
Yeah, so Kenny Gustafson is
Mhm.
supplying our equipment this year.
Yep.
He's been a big help with trying to get us off the ground. And then Randall Atkinson, he lives out in Colchester. He's around games all the time.
Okay.
And he was, I think, sixth at Masters Worlds last year,
Really?
um, sixth overall.
Hmm.
And he came up to me and said that he was interested in the athletic director portion of it.
Hmm.
And I'm more than happy to take his experience on with it.
Right. And we probably do want to mention somewhat that this is an athletic event primarily. which is very important to do. So it won't be as much of a cultural picture of all the Scottish things like we think of, perhaps.
Yeah, not quite. I don't think really we've got the people or the logistics or anything
Right.
like that
Hmm.
to really go and do a full cultural festival.
Yep.
Uh, Maybe in the future, because actually a couple weeks ago, the folks that used to run the Washington County Highland Festival out in Rhode Island, they reached out. Um, so maybe their experience is something that we could use in the future.
Right.
Um, if we grow into something like that, that's great. If we stay as just an athletic backyard game, that's fine too.
Right. I think there's plenty of space here, David, for just an athletic event, you know. I think you might be smart to stay lean and mean and just athletics. A lot
Yeah,
of that
maybe
a lot of that
because
peripheral might be hard to continue or to live up to promises
yeah,
and things about it, you know, at least now or the first couple of years of it. Get yourself out there, get your name and the whole aspect of this thing with the veterans tie-in is wonderful and there's not many like that. I don't think there's another one in New England that has that focus or that intent behind it. So
hmm
that's a nice thing to have. So all 9 Highland events you're planning on having.
yeah. We were. I was a little wary about adding hammers in just because I wasn't 100% sure if we'd have the room for it.
Sure, it always is.
Um, but they the fairgrounds that we're doing it at, um, they've got an old little league baseball field on the property that
Yep.
they can't use for little league baseball. But they've still got all the fencing up. They've got the backstops behind the home plate. So
Yep.
as soon as I saw that, I knew that we would be able to do hammers
Good.
uh, because really it's this. I was worried about safety,
Right.
um, having the distance that having the amount of space that hammers require to be able to just cordon it off and still have room for everything else.
Right.
And then keeping athletes and any sort of spectators safe
Sure.
with that event. But they've got the room, they've got everything that they need or we need to do it. So
Yeah. Right. Could you're looking for kind of a cone, right, David? A cone or a V
yeah,
type of a footprint for this kind of thing. That's what my experience is anyways.
yeah, that's pretty much what we were looking for. Because some of these guys can throw those hammers 120 plus feet,
Yeah.
and yeah, we need a big cone to take care of that.
Right. The sheaf toss, the weight over the bar, weight for distance, stone throws, the caber, all this.
Oh yeah, all of it.
Lovely. And Ken Gustafson's going to be coming down with the equipment, which is nice. I just had a talk with Ken about he's I'm losing track of time. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think I talked to Ken on here. I don't know if you saw that segment, but it's great that he's supporting you and helping you get your foot in the door with this stuff. Very important to have him.
Yeah, it is. He's from what I understand, he's been a lot of the reason why we have such a huge um, Highland Games community in this area. Him and
Hmm.
I know there's a few other people that were really the big supporters and
They're the columns holding up this foundation, you know?
yeah, but you can't rely on the same columns the whole time. Uh,
Hmm.
they're gonna get to everybody's gonna get to a spot where they just can't do it anymore. So
Yep.
somebody's got to take the reins, and I think we've got a really good um, new generation of ads and supporters moving into the Highland Games now. Because I mean, we've got No Fame, we've got Mac Dillman out in New York, who's
Hmm.
he's been doing he does one game in mass, um, and then we just had. I mean, we've got a new AD that took over Loon last year. Well, not new. She's been doing games for years, but
Okay.
we've got all those people that weren't sort of the original push kind of coming in and starting
Yeah.
to take over a little bit. And that's really how we keep this thing going.
Sure. Right. No one can step in the day someone left, having never done it. They need to have, be someone's protege for a year or two or more, or a little more to get an idea what's going on. I talked to to Ken about that a little bit. I
Hmm.
say I must use the sentence him and people like him, and I said I'm not going to say that. I'll say people around you and with you, and because I didn't know there's anyone like you yet. But he says, oh, they're coming up, and he's looking around, and he has some people that have helped him out when he couldn't make one a few times, which is good to get their feet wet in this.
Yeah. Sam Denson up in Maine, who started up a couple games a couple years ago.
Yep.
Um, I mean, you've got Robert Sims, who does
Yes.
2 or 3 games a year, but I mean, as spry as he is at his age, he's getting up there. He can't keep doing it forever.
Right. Yeah. Well, I hope he has a person or three around that's been exposed to what he does for a while now. I'm sure there's someone.
Yeah,
Um,
there's definitely people who have been joined at the hip with him, kind
yep.
of learning and um, taking a lot of information and experience from him. Him and Mac Dillman have really been the two people that I've been talking back and forth with a lot, trying to get
Okay.
information, trying to figure out how to do certain things. So they've been a huge help with all of this planning. This whole Whaling Coast Highland Games. It's not me. Um, like there's been a lot of people involved with this and a lot of different um, types of help, and it's not. It's a culmination of a lot of different people and a lot of different experiences coming together to put this on.
Right. And I'm glad to be a little part of it, getting the word out for people. Um, so you've got it's North Stonington Park,
Yeah, so it's the North Stonington Fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds rather. Yep.
It's right off of 95. Um,
Hmm.
and North Stonington, Westerly, Rhode Island, Mystic.
Yep.
Um, that's all kind of at one point the property lines were kind of muddy and there's not really a whole lot of difference. Nowadays they kind of separated themselves. But it was all part of that whaling um, economic culture back in the early 1900s. Um,
Yes.
and we're not necessarily trying to romanticize or say that culture and how it is necessarily a good thing,
Right.
because there were problems with how the whaling industry operated.
Yes.
I'm not going to say that there weren't.
Sure.
Environmentally, economically, there were issues with it.
Hmm.
But yeah, the whaling industry drove a lot of the late early 1900s culture in this area.
Okay.
And even before that, it was still seaports. There was still a huge um, sailing
Hmm.
culture around. There's still the seacoast kind of coastal New England culture there. There's societies and communities around that have tried to maintain um, houses and buildings and the areas as much as they could
Right.
in not necessarily its originality, but at least trying to maintain the original styles.
Right.
Your typical New England cottages,
Yep.
your small little fishing towns.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of work to try to maintain that.
Nice. A lot of pride down there. So I think I must have been there probably in 23. I read in your email that you threw first in 23 at the Scotland Games.
Yeah, that was my first game. That was the
Okay.
first game I threw in.
Yeah.
I grew up down in North Carolina and up up in the foothills, and we, as a kid, my parents would take me to the Blue Ridge games.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, okay.
and
Nice.
because my mom's family is Scottish. We're fairly certain that my dad's family's Welsh, but
Mhm.
the Williams last name is kind of hard to track,
Yes.
uh, just because it's so common, and there were so many origins of that last name that it's hard to figure out exactly where we came from. But
Right.
on that side,
Yep.
um, but I grew up. We went to the Blue Ridge games um, after I joined the Navy. At one point, I ended up stationed in New Hampshire back in 21.
Oh.
And we went to the Loon Mountain Games
Mm.
in, I think it was 2021 we went. And that kind of brought that back up. Uh,
Yep.
and it made me start thinking about whether or not I could get involved. Because I mean, and that gets a little funny because like Blue Ridge and Loon, those were big games. Those were pro games. Those were invite games.
Okay.
Um, whether or not Blue Ridge still is now, I'm not sure. And I know Loon's made some changes over the last couple of years, and I'm not exactly sure how everything goes
Indeed.
there anymore. But
Indeed.
um, when I'd see those, I'd see these big giant people throwing
Yep.
throwing everything, to tossing cabers and throwing the weights
Sure.
60, 70 feet. And I'm not a particularly big person. So I was kind of trying to figure out what we could do or what I could do to kind of get involved. And then I found out, and I moved to Connecticut in 2022. We went and watched Scotland that year,
Yeah.
and I started noticing some people that weren't those really big
Yes.
athletes.
Indeed. This is nice.
Um, I was like, it got me thinking maybe I could do it. So in 23, I found out it was a show and throw. There wasn't any registration. You just needed a kilt. I didn't have a kilt. Robert Sims just happened. He doesn't believe in coincidences, but he just happened to have a McPherson kilt.
Yeah. Really.
Um, so I showed up. He let me borrow the kilt that day. I threw. It was probably some of the most fun I've had in a very long time.
Nice.
Because even I was brand new, hadn't touched any of the implements before, and everybody was so willing to teach me how to do things,
Yeah.
show me the ropes, get me integrated into the sport. And there's not a lot of communities like that. There's not a lot of athletic communities like that. There is the competition. Like
Yeah.
people want to do well, but up until you get to the point where you're trying to go pro or you are a pro, that's not as much of a being first isn't what's on everybody's minds. Most of them, it is being better than they were last month or last game,
Okay.
and then seeing other people do better. And that's a community that is few and far between, I think.
Mm.
Um, and then last year, I threw in 8 or 9 games throughout our season,
Yes.
um, and all over New England. The only I didn't throw in Vermont or New Hampshire, but I threw in Maine, Mass, Connecticut, New York, and those are all different little sub communities of. They've all got their. I mean,
Yeah.
Connecticut, Massachusetts, the folks coming from Rhode Island, Maine. That's everybody sees each other in the same games
Yep.
every month anyway.
Sure.
But New York, it's a whole different slew of people,
Mm.
especially if you get upstate. And the community is the same. the ideals and the mindset of everybody is the same.
Wonderful.
It's just bolstering each other up and trying to make each other better, and then it's the competition.
Okay.
And I really fell in love with that, and I wanted to get as deep into the weeds with it as I could.
Yeah, you heard me sing the praises of the Highland Games community and family in
Oh
New
yeah, all
England,
the
haven't you,
time.
David? All the time. And yeah, like I'm always talking about ironing out the wrinkles of intimidation for newcomers, and I love to say that kind of thing, you know. Uh, that's just what it is, come on in. Nobody's looking at you sideways. Who's that on the other side of that rope over there? Why are they staring at me or whatever, that kind of thing. It's just come on in. Yeah, it's a family. It really is. And I've never been an athlete or a sports, I should say, member of a team, really anything like that, very much in school here and there. But um, I think you're right. That PB, that personal best that is there. You're helping other people make their personal best. It's a it's a one of a kind thing. It really is. But you're finding it's one of a kind in every location, which is wonderful, wonderful to hear. Really is.
Yeah. I mean, there's differences in how different people run their games, but that's secondary.
Hmm.
Um, it's really just the people that's there and the friends
Yep.
that you end up making very quickly. Um,
Yes.
People don't really care where you came from. It's very reminiscent of the community, the personability within the military.
Is
Um,
it?
because it's a whole bunch of different people from all sorts of different places. Nobody cares where you came from. Nobody cares about your political beliefs. Nobody cares about your religious beliefs, your personal beliefs. Nobody cares about any of that. They care about the person that they're talking to,
Okay.
which is great because I think is great with everything going on right now and all the political
Mm.
and all the huge divide that's started to rise up in the country. At least if you look at the news, that's what they're talking about.
Mhm.
You show up to a Highland Games, that disappears. It's all gone,
Yep,
and it's very relaxing.
it is. It's wonderful to see the families come with all the athletes as well, But just the whole community that follows along with their family to watch them and they all know each other's families and it's fantastic. It really is. It's a very tightly knit community
It is.
that you can truly count on, I think. And they get through anything together. They really did. Look, how much rain and muck do we have to deal with at the Spring Slam? But everyone pulled together and made things happen, set it up, took it down, and grinned most of the whole time.
Yeah, and then Robert Sims games last month. Um,
Yep.
it was May 10th, I believe, or
Robin
this
Hood,
month. We're
the
still
Robin
in
Hood
May.
one.
Bruce Banner. Robin
Oh,
Hood's the
oh,
day
okay.
after No Fame.
Oh, okay.
Um, but it was raining pretty much until 11 o'clock, and everybody had smiles on their faces. We were still throwing.
Right.
We just and you somebody to go throw. You'd have a conversation with them. You'd part ways to go throw whatever you were throwing. You'd come back, start talking to them, and every time you see them, there's just a little bit more mud on them.
Yeah.
It was a good time, but again, nobody cared. Everybody was just there to throw and talk to
Nice.
people they haven't seen since October.
Right. And I think you told me you've got a good list going for sign up so far, David.
Yeah. So I told you the other day that we had 18. We just
Yes.
had another one sign up yesterday, bringing us to 19.
Nice.
Um, when I started the game, I wanted 20. I thought 20 would be a really good number as a first year.
Hmm.
And it looks like we're going to meet it. Um, the spread it's spread out.
Okay.
There's I've got I've got amateur men, amateur women, masters, lightweights,
Excellent.
I've got a little bit of everybody. And I think if we stick around 20, 25 athletes, it'll be fairly manageable for the first year.
Right.
I think it would be a really good starting point.
Good.
But I mean, we've got some good athletes signed up too. Some good numbers coming through with the different athletes. I think it'll be a good time. I think it'll be a good performance from our athletes.
Nice. And so Randall Atkinson will have to figure out some cabers that'll to figure out what's gonna be challenging to some people and
Yeah,
not be too easy for the vets. It's sort of a trade-off there. I know I've been learning that lately, David.
it is. It's difficult, specifically with Caber to kind of judge
Yeah.
what to use and what not to use because especially with a smaller game, if you've got newer people, you want them to be able to at least pick the caber up,
Yeah.
even if they're not able to turn it, because that you want the newer throwers to keep coming back,
Right.
um, and if they've got that idea of hey, I can do this, they're going to keep coming back, um, because there is that satisfaction, that pride within yourself of being able to do these things because it's not easy. It's
No.
very strength can get you to a certain point, but I've learned that our sport is very, very technical.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of different techniques that you have to adopt because of the different events. The stone throws are very different than the weight throws. The weight throws are very different than caber, which is different than sheaf, which is different than weight over bar, which is different than hammer.
Yep.
Um, so it's 7 different techniques that you've got to figure out,
Wow.
which it can be discouraging sometimes. I remember last year I'd have a game where something clicked and I did well on sheaf that game. And then the next game something would click and I did well with the weight for distance,
Right.
but then sheaf wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Um, I actually after the first my first 2 games I hated sheaf. I thought it was I thought it was terrible. I didn't like it. Um, and then Steve Profit and Randall Atkinson, who were pretty much at every New England game between the two of them, they started adjusting little bits of technique with me and
Okay.
coaching me and teaching me a little bit. Steve Profit held sheaf world records at one point, I believe. Um, and things started to move a little bit better with it. Now sheaf's my favorite event. I love sheaf. That's the one I practice the most.
Hmm.
Um, and I love caber. Those 2 events are probably my favorite. But um, there's I completely went off on a tangent, but
It's all right. No
like
problem.
caber's I think caber is the thing that will keep new athletes continuing to show up
That
because
satisfaction.
that's the Highland Game event. If
Yes.
you go down the street, you start talking about Highland Games, most people don't know what you're talking about. And then you say caber or throwing a tree,
Yep.
and it clicks, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that."
Yeah, they've got that
Um,
image now.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like if a new thrower can at least pick it up, to me, that's going to keep people coming back to games every year.
Yes. You're right. You don't want them to hit a brick wall of discouragement and dismay and,
Yeah, but at the same time, you don't want the guys that have been throwing for 8 years picking a way too easy caber.
right. Yeah, that's a very interesting point to me to this caber selection. I want to film somebody doing this sometime, the draw shave and the whole thing and selecting
Yeah,
them and
I'd like,
taking a look at a clipboard, right? Like you say.
yeah,
And who do we have next week? What do we need to do to do the right thing for these athletes, right? To challenge some and to not make a walk in the park for the veterans either.
yeah.
Yeah, cool stuff. Very cool.
And that takes experience, I
Yeah,
believe. Um,
right.
which is why the newer athletes and ADs really need to lean on the older generation and learn from them as much as we can so that we can continue this culture and push it into new places.
Right. And it's wonderful that we have quite I call it a circuit. I don't know if that's the right word, but a lot of games in New England now. And the Whaling Coast Highland Games at Stonington on the 26th of July is going to be in line with the others so that people do have somewhere to go in New England, right? If there was two or three a year, people really wouldn't get broken in very easily on it, I don't think. And this way they can stay near home, hopefully, or at least in the region and have a half a dozen to go to. Even four or five a year, right, is going to get you broken in. If you did one this year and
Yeah.
not till next year, that's nothing probably. It's
Yeah,
worthless.
you're not gonna make a lot of progress because
Yep.
there's a
So you
lot of
need this. You need these events running concurrently pretty much with each other and next week another or 2 weeks.
yeah, and I mean in New England you could find one almost every other week from
Indeed.
May
Indeed.
until October.
Yeah, great.
Um, at a minimum,
What
it's
an
almost
atmosphere.
every other weeks.
Right.
I mean some of them are a little bit of a drive for me. Like I'm not going to Old Orchard Beach this year because
Ah,
I only want to make that drive once, and I'm going to go to the main games.
all right. I'll see you
Um,
there.
that's just yeah, that's a long drive for me.
Yes.
Because Old Orchard Beach is 3.5 hours, and then
Right.
uh, Maine, since they had to move it this year, that's pushing 4 now for me. Um,
Wow. Yes.
and with, I mean, I've got a full time job. I've got a I've got a wife and a daughter to take care of and keep track of.
Right.
I've got stuff at the house I need to take care of. Like I don't really have the time to disappear every other weekend.
Mm.
Um, and that was with new games popping up and with as many games as we have, you've got your pick basically. If you want to just throw in Connecticut, we've got mine will make four, I believe,
Oh, okay.
between Scotland, Connecticut, Litchfield that started up, and then the Ren Fair.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and then Massachusetts, you've got at least three a year, four. In Maine, you've got three or four a year. Um, Vermont, I believe, only has the one. New Hampshire's got one or two.
Yeah.
But I think as we keep, and then Rhode Island doesn't have any right now.
Right. Richmond
But
stopped a while back.
yeah, they stopped way before I moved up here. Which from what I've heard, those were good games.
Yes.
Those I've heard those were a lot of fun. I think Katie Vaudrain actually started with those,
She did. Yep.
if I remember
Correct.
your interview with her. But
Oh, thanks.
she's a really good athlete.
Mm.
But I think as we start spreading more throughout the three major states that we've got it in New England, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island follow
Yeah.
because it's going to turn into what my mindset was. I don't want to drive 4 hours. Stonington's 15 minutes away.
Yep.
Let's try to start one there and see if we can get it going.
Yeah.
Somebody in Rhode Island's going to pick it up and be like, well, I don't want to drive to New York or I don't want to drive to the mountains in Massachusetts.
Right.
It's Berkshires, right?
Yeah. Berkshires.
Yeah, the Berkshires. I'm gonna start one up in Warwick.
Yeah.
That'd be great for me too, because Warwick's only 45 minutes.
Right.
But I think as we start to push through these states, the other three will follow.
Nice. All right, good. Um, so you have a ticket link. We can publish that for you at some time here. As a
Yeah,
ticket
I'm
link,
not 100% sure that it's live yet.
oh, that's okay.
Um,
And kids are 12 and under are free. Is that right, David?
yeah, so kids 12 and under are free. Um, the ticket link that we have, if you buy the tickets online, it's $10. If you and that goes up until midnight on the 26th. And
Okay.
then if you show up at the gate, like you're just driving by, it's 15. Um,
Yep.
and again, like I don't want anybody to think that I'm doing admission fees for reasons other than being able to run the game itself and then giving it back to the charity.
Okay.
Um, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not taking anything. I'm actually coming out of pocket a little bit for it, but and that's what most ADs in New England are
No
is
doubt.
breaking even just
Right.
about.
Yeah. Well, David, we're almost out of time. I appreciate you coming on the Touch Knot today
I
for
appreciate you having me.
to talk about the Whaling Coast Highland game. Uh, you've quite an undertaking here, and I appreciate it. I hope everyone else does too, to try to add yet another event to the New England Highland Games. And you're well on the way to doing that. I wish you so much luck in it.
Thank you.
All right, take care, David.
You too.
All righty, touch knot, everyone. Thank you.